At one point in time, the human race believed that it was impossible to run the 4-minute mile. It was impossible. No human would ever achieve that feat. But then it happened. Then the impossible happened. The 4-minute mile was run. And then suddenly, more and more people begin to run the 4-minute mile. This is not only a truth, it's a brilliant metaphor for every single aspect of life and living, and the ways in which we hold ourselves back, the limitations that we apply for the things that we do not yet know we can or cannot achieve. Rupert Sheldrake has a theory of morphic resonance, that is a universal, unified field of knowledge and understanding. And as knowledge grows in the collective, it becomes easier. It becomes easier to learn the same things. That information grows by itself exponentially. So as soon as we start believing that a 4-minute mile is possible, as soon as we see it with our own eyes, then we know, well, this can happen, this is possible. And then it happens, increasingly so. The same can be applied to consciousness. Every so often, potentially across hundreds of years, someone demonstrates the possibility of humanity, our maximum potential, and creates a shift in the mean understanding of what we can achieve, right? Think of Jesus Christ as a great example of showing what is possible, of showing the extent and the capacity for love and forgiveness. And in showing that and in demonstrating that, shifts the overall understanding of what is possible. Now, it might take millennia to reach such heights, but it creates, in the morphic field, it creates a point of understanding. We can use this 4-minute mile metaphor in our own development. What is it that you believe is currently impossible? Can it be that the only impossibility is the thoughts that you have linked to you doing that? I'll use a personal example that actually came to me when I had this idea, right, for this video. I had a flashback, a memory to a time when I felt incredibly anxious. This was a time when I was having multiple panic attacks every day. And it was around the time when I was thinking about my future. When we imagine a future, most of the time we project from our current state. So if something doesn't feel possible in the present moment, we project that it won't be possible in the future. So no matter how far ahead we go, we're projecting from a core sense of impossibility. This moment in my past, when I was feeling super, super anxious, I was actually looking at my education. I was looking at whether I would go to university. It was something that I felt I really wanted to do. But in that moment, you know, at that time in my life, I struggled. I couldn't even make phone calls without almost breaking down with anxiety. I couldn't walk down the street. I use that example a lot, but I couldn't even walk down the street without feeling crippling anxiety. I would get panic attacks on public transport. I would get public attacks. Probably felt like I was under public attack. I would get panic attacks in public, right? So in crowded spaces, I would get severe anxiety. Going out for meals with my family, I would sometimes feel so anxious I couldn't eat my food, or at least it was an effort to eat my food, right? So projecting from that point, I was looking at my future and I just had images that came to mind of being sat in a lecture hall, learning and studying. And from that moment, that was my impossibility. That was my 4-minute mile. The feat that could not be achieved, because all I could see was me sat there in a state of panic, unable to learn. Of course, I eventually did go to university and I did have panic attacks in lectures, but that's besides the point, right? I did it and I confronted it and I moved through, and continually, over and over again, I keep confronting 4-minute mile beliefs. And I want you to do the same. I want you to think of a time, anything that you've achieved that at any point in your life previous, you had the thought that it was not possible. It does not have to be the monumental. It does not have to be the profound. But I can guarantee you will find many moments where you've done something that you didn't believe was possible. Now, the thing is, on a collective level, the more we see an elevation of consciousness, the more we see people achieving the impossible, be that uncovering the divinity within, demonstrating forgiveness, demonstrating love, demonstrating what is possible in terms of awareness, in terms of transformation and fulfillment and connection to nature and to the divine. The more that we can model that, well, then we increase the belief, then we increase the ease of way, the path of ascension for everyone. The morphic field of resonance starts to vibrate in harmony with the divine. And then people start to believe this is possible. Then people start to remember what is possible. Then people start to remember what is possible within. But it begins with your impossibility. It begins with whatever feels impossible in this moment, even if it is making a phone call. And even if you face the impossibility and you feel like you fail, continue. Keep disproving the impossible belief or the limitations. Don't believe any limitation, don't believe any thought is truth, and see what happens. Malcolm Gladwell has a theory of the tipping point, and this is also seen in studies, that if you get a group of people meditating, and there's a name for this that I've forgotten, but I can put a link in the description. If you get a group of people that meditate, and also the Heart Math Institute have explored this as well, right? Get a group of people together to create a sense of loving kindness, to meditate on that, to radiate loving kindness from the heart. You create a shift in the electromagnetic field of the collective. And then something incredible happens. If you look at studies and the research into this, in the cities where this has been attempted, where the frequency has changed, there's less crime. The crime rates drop rapidly. And so does the sense of well-being in people increase at the same time. So we have the ability to connect to these morphic fields. We have the ability as a collective to shift the overall idea of the 4-minute mile, of what is possible in terms of transformation. So if you currently feel limited, if you currently feel like I will never achieve this, see that as a belief, and just a belief, and allow that belief to begin to disintegrate. And it might not be that you achieve that tomorrow. It might not be that you achieve it in a week's time or in a month's time, but it will happen eventually. If you can conceive it and you believe in it, you will achieve it. It all sounds a bit cheesy, doesn't it? But this is true, and this idea of being the change and shifting within ourselves and making that path then easier for others is crucial. So one of the best things that you can do to serve the collective, one of the best things that you can do on your journey is to reach the point where you transcend what you previously felt was impossible within. To experience the impossible, to experience the miraculous, right? Allow yourself to be stunned into aliveness. Allow yourself to have experiences that the past you told you would never happen. Even if it's the phone call, even if it is reaching outside of your comfort zone by 1%. Because then when you do that, you can tap into a future that is free from the shackles of limitation. Then you can imagine greater and greater achievements or states or sense of freedom or liberation over and over again. Because you'll remember, yeah, there was a time in the past where I told myself this was impossible, and yet I moved beyond that. I grew beyond it. And then you can increase your North Star and start to move towards something that is more profound and more impossible than you can even imagine in this present moment. So tap into that morphic field of resonance, tap into that disbelief and transcend it. Move towards the brightest future that you can envision from the purest essence of who you are.